Hey guys, what is going on? IROCTHS here, back with the next episode, the first true episode of the tutorial and rebuild series. So the last episode, we just kind of went over teams and what I'm looking for in a team to choose, and I chose to go with the Rangers. It really pains me to not choose the Royals, but kind of like I got into, I feel like if I did the Royals, I would get too caught up in my personal opinions on the real life equivalents of those players. Players like Ryan O'Hearn, who I uh, have definitely drunk the Kool-Aid on him as a prospect. I wouldn't necessarily value him appropriately. He's just an example. I think I could get him appropriately because I'm a little more cooled off on him than I used to be, but there are some other players that I might not be able to. So, first thing I did, had some problems with the recording, so some of this is already done. I changed the sign fire minor league personnel, minor league free agent signings and releases, and minor league promotions, demotions, strategy to the second option. It's the second option. All these have two options. So either assistant GM or minor league managers. Minor league lineups, depth charts, and pitching staffs should automatically be minor league managers. So the reason you want to do that is it can be a little overwhelming to try to do all of that at once. Like you can see up here as well, I'm only playing as a GM, I'm not playing as a manager. If you do want to play as a manager and GM, more power to you. I don't want to do that right now. So I will say if you do want to do that, learn about what platooning is. That is going to be the best tip I can give you, specifically for managing. A lot of the other stuff, we're gonna a lot of stuff that we cover is gonna be relevant to both, but platooning, since I don't have control over lineups and depth charts, I can't do that. So after we change those, we're gonna come over to the game settings. We're gonna go to scouting, and as you can see, I've already changed this a little bit. Yours will look a little different originally. I think it's 20 to 80 stars and stars here. So I turn off current rating scale, and overall rating, and change potential rating to 20 to 80 increments of 5. So let me take a couple of minutes and explain the 20 to 80 scale. This is actually how they grade prospects in real life. Almost every baseball publication grades prospects the same way. Basically, it's percentile rankings. So if you understand that, it's the same thing. If you don't know what that means, basically, if you take someone like, let's just grab a player here. Let's go with Joey Gallo. This Joey Gallo is really fun to look at for this kind of thing. So Joey Gallo, if you look at him, he has a few different things here. This is all potential rating. This isn't actual rating. This is what he could potentially be. So you can see here he has a contact rating of 40. So what that means is his potential contact, he could potentially be as good as or better than 40% of all major leaguers. By contrast, his home run power at 75 says he has as much home run gain power, or potentially will, as 75% of players. The reason you go 20 to 80 and not 1 to 100 on that is because it allows you to say, well, this guy's as good as, let's say Miguel Cabrera. I don't know what Miguel Cabrera's home run power is. I'm guessing it's not 75, but it's probably more like 65. You know, maybe he isn't as good at it as you wouldn't definitely say he's 1% better at it than Miguel Cabrera. But if they had the same rating, then you could say they're about as good. It allows for that ambiguity, not saying things with certainty, but still trying to give a baseline. You can't necessarily say someone is the best day in, day out, most powerful hitter. Has the most home run power day in and day out. You can't do that. So this bakes that uncertainty in there. And once you kind of understand how to read it, it's a lot easier to read. So as you can see, these are color coded. He's got a 40 here that's kind of a yellowish orange. Got a 50 here that's yellow, straight up yellow. This the third base rating is a 30 or a 60, so that's a little green. The eye discipline is kind of a teal. The home run is a bright blue, almost a baby blue, and the 80 is more even brighter blue. So And you can see like the avoid Ks and the bunt for hit; those are 30s, and those are red. So the color scale it helps you kind of identify that as well. Like I said, this is the scale that people use, that real life scouts use and real life publications use. So you can apply all the information you're using here specifically to that, to reading scouting reports on real life players and prospects. So we're gonna go back over to game settings here, and looking through here. Is there anything else I need to do here? Let's see. Save box scores from human teams, and save game logs from human teams. So I'm gonna go with none on that. So what I'm doing here is all of these basically increase the size of the database, and the larger the database, the longer it's going to take to load, and the longer it's going to take to run standards. If you're generating a box score, or not a box score, but like a game log, you're saving a game log from every game that happens in this universe. You don't just have the MLB, you've got all the minor leagues here. Okay, so you're saving all those box scores. That's going to bog down the game. You want to turn those off. You don't really use them. You still keep yours. I don't save 3D movements because I don't use that feature. If you want to use that feature, that'd be nice. I'm going to leave that off for now. I kind of want to see if it does track injury logs on the player profile, because that would be the only reason I'd turn that on, is I do want to track injury ratings on the player profile. So I go over to player and face gen. I do highly encourage you to use this. Turn off the injury rating, because you're never going to have a true injury rating in real life. Some of this is about getting it to replicate real life. And then for player settings, player pictures for major league players, holy cow, generating for every single player takes forever. I have made that mistake before. And then player pictures for major league players, update pictures on each January 1st, because status update is going to change. Doesn't look like that won't change with team, but if you really do want it, you can always turn that back. I'm just trying to speed up the way the game goes. And then baseball cards, I've never really found a use for them, so I turn them off. AI settings, you can't really change that. The only thing you can change is lineup selection. I go with traditional. I might look into whether sabermetric is more accurate to real life. Sabermetrics are penetrating the leagues a little bit more. So, and then you can't change ratings in challenge mode for obvious reasons. This is supposed to try to get everyone on the same level. So, league settings. So this is where we're going to go. First we're going to go to rules. This is where you would like move around teams, change the playoffs, that kind of thing. If you want to do an expansion draft or something like that. So schedule a fantasy draft, free agent draft, that kind of thing. So let's redo all that kind of thing. So rules. So allow trading of injured players. Where is that? Oh, that should be over here, actually. Allow trading of injured players. Players do get traded when they're injured sometimes. Players are devalued when they're injured, so it's not always in your best interests. But you can also get pretty good deals on injured prospects. So it might allow you to fleece the AI a little bit more. We might come back and turn this off later. And then for the draft, I generate enough players for 40 rounds. I'm going to change this to 5 days prior, just because I don't really look at the draft before the actual draft. There's no time limit like there is in Madden, where you actually have to take advantage of and know the players you want to pick before you get there. So you have as much time as you want, so you can just literally just look through the draft on draft day. So I never really go into the amateur pool and look for players anymore. doesn't really mean anything. I generated for 40 rounds. That's going to generate more players, so it's a little more fun at the lower ends of the draft if you draft that far down. Not everyone does. I usually don't. I made this year. I will draft as far as I can until I feel like I'm not really getting any kind of value out of the players I'm drafting. So then we go from here to options, and these rule changes that I am going to turn off in the dynamically evolving league are entirely preferential. I'm going to change active roster size, 40-man roster size, designated hitter rule. Yeah, those are the three I'm going to turn off. I like the fact that the AL and the NL have that difference in the the rule change there. I like that. I think that's one of the beauties of Major League Baseball over other leagues like the NBA, that kind of thing, where everyone plays by the same rules. I'm not saying that that the NFL or the NBA or the NHL or the MLS or something like that should start implementing things for different leagues, have different divisions, have different rules or stuff like that. But it's part of baseball history, and I really enjoy it. I don't want them to change that at all. I am fully in favor of the DH and the AL, but I don't think the NL should comply or be forced to comply at the very least. And then I renamed the Gold Glove and Silver Slugger awards to their actual awards, because I don't know why they can't get the rights to that. Maybe they don't have the money for it, but you just change the name to those. The rules are going to be the exact same. They're still going to award the offense by position and defense by position awards to the same to the people. It's the same rules apply. Just what they call it. So, and then we go to stats and AI. So this is what I prefer. Use of closers very often. Your stamina. I turn it up to low. Might not be as realistic, but that's what I like. Turn up infield shifts to extreme because it's more realistic. I hate infield shifts, but I believe they are used to such an extreme that would qualify. And then let's see. So, okay, so I can't change the ABIP, which I wanted to do, but I can't do that in challenge mode. So BABIP is batting average on balls in play. Very important one to understand. Basically, it's batting average that takes out strikeouts. It shows how often the balls you actually put in play become hits. For both pitchers and hitters, the major league average is 300, year in and year out. So 300 is the baseline. Now, I believe this is based off of what was last year. You can see there was an aberration, and it was 303. You can't change that because challenge mode, that's going to be the same for everyone. In addition, if you're not playing in challenge mode, and I don't blame you if it's your first time, I would encourage not playing in challenge mode. That you don't change any of these other things right now. Basically, what this does is this changes what the simulation pulls from for its typical for the simulation engine, the stats that come out of it. So, yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, and I barely know what I'm doing, then I wouldn't change that. So, I find it weird that strikeouts are actually down, considering how we had a league record in strikeouts last year. But that's where we're at. So, yeah, it massively changes how the game simulates. So I wouldn't necessarily do that right away. So after we have changed all of that, we're going to go ahead and meet our team. So holy cow, we're already 14 minutes into this. I was hoping to get through that in about 10. Okay, so team home screen. Again, this gives you kind of an overlook of the team, where you are at. Oh yeah, we're on the meet the team. So position overview right here basically gives you an idea of how good you are at every position in the major. So it says Joey Gallo is the second best left fielder. I highly doubt that. Adrian Beltre being sixth best third baseman. Yeah, probably. So starting pitching and relief pitching is not great because it picks one of yours, usually your best one, and rates you off that. But if you have, let's say you have someone like Ohtani, but everyone else after that is a AAA, like 35 overall kind of pitcher, compared to a rotation of 5 average pitchers, I'll take the roster of 5 average pitchers. That's just me. So you can see there's some things in here. Again, a lot of this stuff you can just find better in other places. I mentioned it here. Ray Davis is lenient and charitable. Another thing, let's go to front office here really quickly, is he's very happy right now. This is very important because wire owner goals disabled in the world options. Oh God, did I screw something up again? Manager option. That's not screwed up. So option. Yeah, I may go in and try to fix that after recording. I don't know what the reason those owner rules aren't there. I don't know if it was at the beginning of this video or at the beginning of another video because I've done a few takes on this. But we have some owner goals, and a lot of them are accomplished them this year. One of them is make the playoffs. We're not really going to shoot for that if we accomplish that goal. That'll be nice. But so we're going to go to meet the team. But lenient and charitable, those are the things you're looking for. I don't remember what the other 2 things are. Involvement and priority. So patience. How much they're willing to tolerate you not accomplishing their goals, the goals they set for you before they let you go. Obviously, that's not really enabled right now, but I plan to get that fixed before the next episode. Fiscal personality, charitable. How much money they're going to give you to spend. These are the 2 most important things to look at. Involvement is how much they're going to go behind your back and sign players to extensions or sign free agents or usually not make trades, but do those kind of things. Even someone like a notorious meddler like Baltimore, Peter Angelos, is only a normal involvement. I'm not sure that any major league team, I don't feel like going through all of them, no, I don't feel like any major league team has anything other than normal, which is fine. Priority is whether they prioritize winning or whether they prioritize money. Very rarely do you have anything closer toward winning than balanced. You will see some people who are more prioritized around earning money, occasionally. So that's something. Those are the 4 owner things to look at. Really, what you're looking at are patience and fiscal personality, because these 2 don't tend to change too much. They might in fictional leagues, and they probably will over time as the league evolves. But right now, those really are usually normal and balanced. Lenient and charitable is pretty good. Anything that's red or orange on these means it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for you. So we're doing over position overview, I think. Is there anything else I wanted to look at? So top prospects, I have no idea how it figures this out because obviously got my player with the second best potential. Oh, it's OSA rank. That's how. And OSA, by the way, OSA is, I can't remember what it stands for, but they are kind of like Baseball Prospectus, except bad. They scout every team with almost no resources, every player, and so their scouting results are unreliable. Every time I would go with my scout over the OSA. So, but the OSA is the one who publishes the prospect rankings. They're the ones who publish this. I don't know if they have if they favor tools or ability. I would say for something like this, they should probably favor ability, but that's me. So, the rest of these really aren't that important. All the information is covered somewhere else. Let's come over to the team chemistry screen. So this is pretty important. This is one of the things you're going to spend a decent amount of time trying to make this right. So the relationship manager is not as big of a deal unless you're developing players. Basically, this determines how likely they are to get better or perform fully to their potential, and how likely they are to resign. Very rarely, unless you have a temperamental manager, is no one going to sign with you. So, really more important is that this stays on the right side of the lettering, and that this stays green. At least someone can agree. So, as long as that stays good, and normally if you're winning, that's going to be okay. It's going to be at least halfway, even if you have a really clustery locker room. Make sure when you start getting prospects up here that your coach has at least a neutral relationship, probably a better relationship with younger players, because you want them to fully develop. So let's talk about the player classes down here. So captain, kind of self-explanatory. You want a captain and/or multiple leaders. Captain is better than leaders. They keep the locker room in check. They keep everyone in line. They keep the situation from getting out of control and everyone happy. If you don't have a captain, you probably want multiple leaders. Obviously, Adrian Beltre does that for us, but who knows how long he'll be around. Spark plugs. Not exactly sure of the effect they have on the locker room. All I could find online originally was they work hard and they don't cause problems. But that's not really what I think of when I think of a spark plug. I think of a spark plug as someone who really injects the team with life. So, not sure how personality can do that. That'd be more like someone who, a prankster could do that, or someone who gets out there and has a monster day to get people hyped up and get people going. Pranksters, speaking of them, basically they are low in leadership but high in work ethic, I think is what it is. There's formulas that there's ways that these are figured out. Can't obviously it's all hidden because we're not playing in commissioner mode, but basically pranksters are really good on teams with really good chemistry and really bad on teams with bad chemistry. So as long as we keep the chemistry okay, it's gonna be okay having a couple of these around. Outspoken players, pretty obvious. They make their opinions known. Not as much of a problem in a locker room unless you have a bad locker room situation. Unmotivated will not get better. They won't put in the work. That's very bad in a team that's struggling, and it's very bad in a prospect you're trying to develop because they will probably never reach that full potential. Disruptive, they kind of they disrupt the locker room. Yasiel Puig pretty much is a great example of this. And then selfish is a player who only cares about their own stats. So that's going to be Antonio Brown. Not a baseball example, but pretty good. We are way further into this than I wanted to be, but I guess this is going to be a longer video because I don't know if I can trim this down at all. So at this point, we're going to go look at the roster. So I prefer to look at the Major League roster or the roster I'm managing from the pitching and lineup screen. So, but for this right here, we will go ahead and take a look at the active roster or the 25-man roster. So sorting it by position, why is it not showing what oh, this is where I wanted to show. That's what I wanted to show, not the stats. Okay, so what I want to talk about really quickly, and probably do this in another episode, but I'm not going to, is contracts. So you can see we got a smattering of players who could be pretty good, and a smattering of players who probably aren't going to be pretty good. Team's okay, not great, okay, probably middling. So let's go to Alex Claudio here. Auto. So what this means is this is a player who has less than 3 years of Major League service, or doesn't qualify for Super 2, which we'll talk about if it ever becomes relevant. And that means that they will be signed for the league minimum or whatever you really want to pay them next year. Usually get a slight increase every year. Like you see here, Major League years. That is weird that he is on an actual Major League minimum contract with 6 years of Major League service. So you can see here, like, he's got minimum, he's got a little bit above, he's got a little bit above that. So, so that's kind of how that works. And those contracts will automatically renew at the end of the season. So you will automatically have them on your team next season. You don't have to worry about signing them or coming to agreement with them. So next up, we have arbitration, the ARBITR, which is way longer than it needs to be for an abbreviation. So these are players that at the end of the season, if the player has between 3 and 6 years of Major League service, they have the right to go to arbitration. And arbitration here is how much the player presents their side and you present your side, and arbitration decides between either your offer or their offer. In Out of the Park, you pretty much have to try to make your offer, your dollar amount, more reasonable than their dollar amount. There's no really arguing it, like pointing out the stats or anything like that. It's pretty much just try to make your dollar amount more reasonable than theirs. I don't even remember. I haven't done it in a while. If you even see what they're countering with, so you just got to make sure that you think you are giving them a pretty fair value for what their stats show. And then Adrian Beltre here. So any player with Adrian Beltre, I guess Bartolo works too. Anyone with a 1 year left next to their name, and it doesn't have auto or arbitration next to it, is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So for us, it's going to be Bartolo Colon, Jesse Chavez, Kevin Jepson, and Adrian Beltre. They're going to be free agents at the end of the year. They're not going to be on this team next year unless we sign them to an extension. And then it's not showing overall rating here, which is good. So I don't have to go into that. That whole thing that I had to note for. And then rosters and transactions, and let's go to let's look so much different. So let's look at the 40-man roster. So can we look at here we go. Let's look at the 40-man roster here because it's less cluttered. The 40-man roster is your active roster, your 25-man roster, plus all the players on your 10-day disabled list, plus a few other players. This is the players that are eligible to be on your Major League roster. So it doesn't look like, okay, they do have a couple of players who are not hurt and so they are at AAA and are on the 40-man roster. Basically the 40-man roster is the players who are eligible to be on your Major League team. So if you wanted to add, so let's say a starting pitcher got hurt, we only have 6 starting pitchers here, and 5 of them are healthy, and 1 of them's hurt. If we wanted to call another starting pitcher from AAA, let's say Yohander Mendez, he has the highest potential. I have to look at his stats to know if I really want to call him up. If I want to call him up, I would have to add him to the 40-man roster. I'm not going to do that because once you add someone to the 40-man roster, it's a pain to get them off. So, the way you can tell if someone's on your 40-man roster from this screen is if they have the asterisk next to their name. A couple other signs to pay attention to is the plus sign, which means you can no longer send them to the minors. So Jesse Chavez has that. He's out of minor league options. Every player has 3 times they can be on your 40-man for 3 years, and not be at the major league level. Even if they spend a day at the minor league level while they're on your 40-man roster, it counts as an option year. The up arrow there means that they have the right to refuse a minor league assignment, which I believe is based on service time. So once you have a certain number of service time and you're out of options, you can reject a minor league assignment. And exclamation mark is the only other one we need to worry about right now. That means they must be on the active roster. I don't see anyone with that. I think you only get that if you sign someone to a deal and specifically choose that you're going to offer them a guaranteed roster spot. So another thing I do want to look at here, because he's much better, and you would expect him to be at the major league level, is Willie Calhoun. Willie Calhoun is a player I would expect to be at the major league level. I was actually surprised to see that he's not in here. So this green arrow and these red arrows means that the game believes that you should promote or demote these players. We're not going to take them at their word for it. We're going to get into whether or not we want to do that probably next episode. These are a good thing to look at to see whether, if you see one of these arrows, you should look at their stats. It should tell you, I need to look at their stats to see if they are ready to move up. So we're not going to do that this episode. We'll do that probably in the next episode. And we're going to take a quick look at the international complex here. Just kind of go over what it is. Sort of here, we have a really, really good prospect here. So the international complex, as you can see, pretty much all these guys are below the age of 20. These are players that your scout has found on international trips or that you have signed from the international free agent market that are under the age of 20 and are not assigned to any of your minor league teams. They stay here, they can develop. There is really no way in this mode to tell if they are developing. I wouldn't bring anyone over until they're 18. If I see someone like Angel Batista, when does he turn 18? So he just turned 17. Yeah, he just turned 17. Oh, it's just right there. So I will be calling him up I will be moving him up next year into my system. Anyone else that doesn't really have any promise, I'm probably going to leave down here until they're 20. Since we can't really track how good a player is getting at this level, my knowledge, the scouting report doesn't change on them or potential. So since we don't really have an idea, if they are good, we want to bring them over earlier. If they're not, if they have like a 20 overall rating, like this first baseman, there's nothing. Okay, he's actually not. Also not a great example because they have for average rules. Okay, this is a really good example. Like, look at this. Like, below average contact, below average avoid Ks, really bad gap power, home run power, eye discipline. Okay, defense. Decent speed. Shortstop. Diamond doesn't. Not going to bring that up early. No point. Probably not going to turn him in. So I don't care if I lose a couple of years of his prime for him sitting down here. This is a lot longer look than I wanted to take at this. So I mentioned the age 20. So when on you'll see this when the international amateurs are announced, which is usually around July 2nd. Everyone who is over the age of 20 on this screen will be put to your lowest level minor league team. For us, ESL Rangers 2. All of them will be added to this roster when the players are announced. They're over 20. So, by that point, they will come in here and they will start, taking up roster spots. They do not take up a roster spot here, but you cannot trade them. So if you have someone like Angel Batista and you want to trade him, you have to bring him over to your minor league system. So that's pretty much all I want to talk about that right now. We'll come back to how players get added to that a little bit more later during the international period, and once my scout actually finds someone. So let's take a look at the strategy page. So this is going to show how my manager prefers to play the game. Now, in theory, I can change all of these that aren't red. I'm not going to touch this page because I'm not playing as a manager, but this tells me how my manager wants to play. So my manager likes sacrifice bunting, likes hit and run, likes squeeze bunt, likes base stealers. So this guy probably prefers players who get on base, who contact over power, and have pretty good speed and the ability to steal. So if I wanted to work with Jeff Bannister, those are the kind of players I would want to get. I don't necessarily want to keep Jeff Bannister. I actually haven't decided if I want to keep Jeff Bannister. So I'm not going to really make any decisions along those lines right now. But yeah, if you get a player that fits his mold, is a good base stealer, and execute a hit and run, knows how to sacrifice bunts. You're gonna put your team in a better place. So then we go over to the front office page. I kind of really want to find a place to stop here. I already talked about the owner. I already talked about win now. We can't really tear this team down. I'll get more to that next time once I figure out how to fix owner goals. As you can see, like we look at the total money available. Actually, here, money for free agents, money for extensions. Still a lot. So, large budget, a lot of room to work with. We're not really going to touch that right now. I'm going to kind of slip through a lot of these really quickly. So scouting, I don't know if I can change the scouting. I can't change the scouting, okay. So scouting budget, since I'm not going to spend a lot of my money, put a lot of here. So I'm going to drop back my Major League Scouting to 15%. My minor league scouting to 15%. And my amateur scouting to 30%. And my international scouting to 40%. Pair those off. So I'm not going to manage. And yes, this is what I want to see. So, except for the highly favors ability. So I may be finding someone new, even though he has excellent outstanding international and amateurs, which is what I really want. So what this does is this influences how accurate these scouting reports will be. So for major leaguers and minor leaguers, I don't really care about that as much. For amateurs, I want that to be as accurate as possible because I'm gonna try to get some diamonds in the rough in the mid rounds, and I want as accurate as possible review of the top round players. International scouting, it influences the quality of the players discovered by your scout, both in national, independent, and international leagues. So what this means is that that international scout to be higher means that your scout is going to periodically throughout the year, no matter what that budget is, if you have anything in it, your scout is going to go overseas and come back and have someone sign without a bonus. The better that, the more you're spending on that, the better quality players those are going to be. Have money to spend on that, do it. Same goes for player development. Again, we have a lot of money to burn. I'm going to bump that up. I'm also going to bump this up to 500 or 5 million, and this up to 5 million. This is the cap. This is how much you can spend. No reason not to budget that unless you have budget concerns. Draft budget, that just puts the numbers on paper. You can always go over your draft budget as long as you don't go over. I think you can even go over slot now. A little silly, but trying to race through a lot of this as much as possible. This just budgets how much you plan on spending in the draft. I don't know how much our slot bonuses and that kind of thing, so I'm not sure. Again, you can go over that budget amount, but I always want to budget the 5 million. This really matters. This determines how likely your players are to reach their full potential. That's not the best way to describe it. This determines how often or how rarely your prospects flame out. So how much random luck influences how your prospects develop and how much they actually live up to that you reach their full potential. So for a while, it was believed to do nothing. That is not the case. The developers have confirmed that effect in forum posts. So we're at 40 or so minutes right now. I don't have that much more to go over, and I really do want to go over all of this in one episode. This is a little longer than I wanted, but I really want to get through all of this in one episode. I think these episodes are going to be a little bit longer than some other kind of Let's Plays and tutorials. There's a lot to explain with this. This isn't a simple game to understand, so there's a lot to explain. So Richard Jones, that's us, so we can kind of ignore that. Pay attention to the salary, but that's about all I want to pay attention to here. Assistant GM manages your minor league roster. So you might want to pay attention to them. If you take over as a GM, that's going to become your assistant GM. If you take over as a manager, the manager's going to become your bench coach. The manager controls the roster and how and players play, how well they develop, and they have different personality types. So you have easygoing managers. So this is for teams that have higher leadership. But if there's a bad clubhouse, it gets worse because there's no leadership from them. They have pretty good leadership right now with Adrian Beltre, so I'm not too worried about Jeff Bannister. If Adrian Beltre retires, I probably will move on from Jeff Bannister. Not really too wowed by what I'm getting from him. So, normal. I don't see any normals, so... Oh, here's normal right here. So, normal, not really excelling in anything. They're not really going to influence the chemistry on the team too much. Which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending. Temperamental. These players are demanding, or these managers are demanding, and they will clash with players. The only time I've ever had a player refuse to sign with me was when I had a temperamental manager, and they said they would not sign as long as that manager was the coach. I legitimately considered firing that manager. I was legitimately considering firing him over that because I didn't. I'm like, I am in the position where I should be signing these top free agents, and I can't because of the manager. That's dumb. I should find a new manager. I didn't, and we had a pretty good season the next year, but that's beside the point. I don't really know of any benefits to these guys. I couldn't find too much online. Resources online to clarify these kind of things are kind of hard to come by. Controlling. These are good if you have really bad locker rooms. They're going to keep the locker room a little more in check. Players will start to resent that. So I would only recommend one of these if you have low leadership clubhouse and newer players, younger players as well. Bench coach, they kind of have the same ratings. Might be good to have conflicting bench coaches. I'm not sure, or conflicting personalities between bench coach and manager. I'm not sure. Wouldn't necessarily want a temperamental one there either. But they have a little bit of an influence on the strategy in the clubhouse. Big thing that a bench coach does every year is if you come over to team chemistry, the bench coach will give you the report on the team chemistry. That's really the only way I notice their impact. I do know they have an impact a little bit on strategy and clubhouse chemistry, but not nearly as much as the manager does. So, and then we get into the pitching coach. I mean, this is very straightforward about what they do. They work with the pitchers. So power pitchers are stuff. So pitchers who have high stuff, and finesse pitchers are about control. So depends on what kind of pitchers you have. And ground ballers are movement. They work well with pitchers who have good movement. So they're going to get along best with them, and they're going to help pitchers improve those things. Hitting coaches affect how your position players perform. There's no one who's a good defensive coach, which kind of makes me sad. But contact, obviously, for contact rating. Power is power hitters. I don't know if that includes gap power or just home run power. And then patience is I avoid Ks or both. It's going to be how likely you are to walk. So I think it's going to be both. Scouting director, really what you want to pay attention to here. This is when I actually do pay a lot of attention to the actual ratings. So we're going to go in here. So great scouting majors, great scouting minors, excellent scouting internationally, which I like, outstanding scouting amateurs, which I like. So I'm not sure which is better, actually, excellent or outstanding. But this is going to influence how accurate your scouting reports are. The other thing that influences it is scouting preference. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, I think. Tools versus ability. Tools is the raw athleticism, so how strong someone is, how fast someone is. Ability is the results. basically. So are they actually turning their tools into results? Do they not have the flashiest tools, but they get good results? So he's going to favor someone who gets better results by a lot. We turned off current value scouting. These guys are great at finding current value, but struggle sometimes at valuing prospects appropriately because prospect value is all future value. You can see how in a rebuild where we're doing where we want our scout to give us the most accurate future value as possible, why I might have a problem with someone who highly favors ability. So I will almost certainly be changing scouts in a future episode, probably the next one, because I don't know what's out there. I don't want to get into that because that's probably another 5 minutes tacked onto this video that has already got on longer than I wanted. It's going to be almost 50 minutes long by the time this is all said and done. So team trainer, this affects injuries. So you can have prevention, treatment, or balance. Prevention is obviously going to prevent players from getting hurt. Treatment is going to affect how quickly a player recovers. Personally, I favor prevention, but I can see why a recovery or a treatment would be good in some situations. But I haven't really done too much testing with those. So, and the team trainer will affect all levels of the minor league. Just like the scout will scout all levels of the minor leagues, will affect the entire organization. So will the team trainer. So, let's see. I think that's everything I wanted to cover, or at least everything I thought I needed to cover in this episode. It's been a little longer than I wanted. Don't know if other episodes are going to be this long. I hope I can keep them a little bit shorter, but we'll see once I get into it how I feel about all of the episodes. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you want more of this. Leave any comments, any questions you have. I'll try to answer them. And next time we will get into looking at our players and probably get a new scout going. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.